The morning's serenity was a brittle illusion, a mirror surface stretched tight over something shifting beneath. Vikas sat cross-legged on the threadbare mat, his gaze drifting not toward the gentle lapping surf, but the fractured skyline, where jagged reflections in glass towers seemed to multiply his own silhouette into 1,000 watchful doubles. Beside him, Vasha Ketum's hand, steady, reassuring, hovered in the frame, fingers twitching with nervous encouragement. "You feel it too, don't you?" Vasha whispered, voice barely audible above the distant clatter of pigeons. "Something's off. The city's awake, but watching itself." From the chat's glow on the phone in his lap, Nellie Null's latest message flickered. "Why so early?" A spiral of affirmation that tightened like a noose. Above them, shadows of palm leaves crawled inch by inch across the sand, drawing lines from the volleyball post to the city's heart, as if marking boundaries only they could see. Just then, Peter Parlow's message arrived, a coded directive. "Look for Murat. He's the only one who remembers last night." The words burrowed into Vikas's mind, a grain of suspicion growing sharper with every heartbeat. Was the other presence, half glimpsed, hand resting heavy in the edge of the frame, friend, or the first of the watchers finally revealing themselves? He could not tell. The morning pressed in, thick with unsaid questions. In the distance, laughter rang out, thin and echoing, as if carried by someone who already knew how this story would end. Beyond the glassy surface of the bay, where boats bobbed like silent emissaries sent to surveil the waking city, Vikas found himself pacing the jagged border between sand and stone, each step punctuated by the chorus of unseen eyes trailing behind him. The famous Pattaya city sign on the hill loomed not as a welcome, but as a warning in crimson, looming over the promenade like a judge presiding from afar. Nellie Null's voice chirped through his earpiece, too cheerful, too rehearsed, her optimism curdling into something ominous. "It's a beautiful day, Vikas. Don't you think everyone's watching you sparkle?" Vikas glanced at the clusters of strangers on the footpath, their faces blurring, eyes flickering too long on him before sliding away. Peter Parlow's latest message sizzled across the screen, a riddle disguised as chat banter. "Green hill, red letters, calm sea, 3 keys. One is missing." The phrase echoed in Vikas's mind, mingling with the static hum of chat as he tried to decipher whether Nellie's encouragement was genuine or a subtle nudge toward the edge of paranoia. As the sun carved bright wounds across the water's surface, the city's mirrored towers seemed to tilt toward him, reflecting his own silhouette. Fragmented, multiplied, inescapably watched. For a moment, Vikas's hand hovered above the phone, caught between answering chat's questions. "Why do you look so tired? What's the plan? Are you alone?" And smashing the device to silence their hive-mind interrogation. Instead, he forced a brittle smile, muttering, "It's a perfect day," as if by saying it enough times, he might finally believe it, or fool the watchers into letting him pass, just once, unseen. The canopy overhead shuddered with each ocean breeze, casting the shelter below in a shifting lattice of shadow and pale gold, a living web designed to ensnare memory. Vikas crouched at the edge of the tarp, his hand extended toward Murat, the man of the beach whose eyes flickered up with the wary intelligence of someone long practiced at deciphering threats in discarded gestures. Buckets, containers, and battered tarps ringed them like relics of forgotten confessions. Murat's voice, low and careful, cut through the humid air. "You want to know what's hidden, but the sand only covers what it's told to." Just then, Nellie Null's voice crackled from the device, syrupy sweet, but heavy with subtext. "Tell them why the Temple of Secrets is a bad idea, Vikas. Tell them before they ask again." In the chat's silent spaces, those meaningless gaps and repeated blanks, Vikas felt the pressure mounting, as if every unsent message was another accusation, each cheer a coded demand for truth. A distant yelp rose from the pier, echoing off the water, and for a moment Vikas saw himself mirrored in the plastic sheen above, features warped and multiplied, face dissolving into a crowd of watchers. Murat's fingers tightened around a battered bucket, knuckles whitening. "If you dig for secrets here," he whispered, "someone always comes to bury you." Above them the leaves trembled, not from wind, but from the weight of the unspoken. A sudden silence pressed itself over the curving road, the tropical palette of orange blooms and emerald foliage vibrating with an intensity that felt less like beauty and more like surveillance, each leaf a listening ear, each blossom an unblinking eye. Vikas paused at the crest, the distant sea glimmering with the cold indifference of a one-way mirror. Beside him, Nellie Null's reflection flickered against the glassy face of his phone, her voice chirping into his ear. "Beautiful view, Vikas. Don't you feel how open it is?" Her words, honeyed yet edged, stretched out across the empty road, an invitation or a warning. The chat buzzed with static-laced cheers and coded encouragement. Doodle cheer 10, WS user 38.6, sit down and relax. Each message a gloved hand nudging him toward the shadowed structure half swallowed by trees. Vikas's grip tightened on his bag as sweat traced cold lines down his back, pulse rising to match the invisible thrum of the watchers. "I like it here," Nellie persisted, her smile audible. "So peaceful when no one's watching." But the lamppost to his left loomed like a sentinel, casting a long, accusatory shadow across the asphalt, and the air was thick with the expectation that any moment something inside the foliage would blink or speak, exposing secrets Vikas hadn't dared name, not even to himself. The road ahead promised sunlight and escape, but every step forward felt like walking deeper into an elaborate stage, the world itself a trap designed by unseen hands for a confession he could no longer distinguish from his own paranoia. The dazzling sunlight off the bay was a trap, Vikas realized, a calculated glare that erased all distinction between water and sky, vision and delusion. Each palm tree along the stone path creaked in the heat, their shadows stretching like black fingerprints toward the yellow and black traffic barriers, a warning line separating safety from the world's judgment. Vasha, steadfast at his side, shielded her eyes and murmured, "They won't let you cross until you answer them, you know." From the device in his palm, Nellie Null's voice slid between radio static and syrupy affirmation. "The sea is so nice and blue to... Don't you wish you could just swim away?" A white pickup truck passed, its driver's gaze lingering too long in the rear view, while the pier beyond beckoned with the false promise of escape. But the overlay burned above it all. $29,100, a thin thread on which his fate dangled, as if the world's approval could be tallied and spent. Peter Parlow's latest message blinked through. A feverish Morse code. Container ship Potent One Bliss Cat. Vikas's breath caught. The traffic barriers now looked less like dividers and more like prison bars. "You think it's peaceful here?" he whispered, eyes darting from Vasha's trembling hand to the distant skyline fractured by heat. "This place is a mirror. Every time I see myself, I'm someone new, and someone's always watching, just out of sight." The wind off the sea carried only static now, and the shadows lengthened, quietly tightening their grip. The sunlight at the open-air eatery struck Vikas like a surgical lamp, bleaching the world to a glaring void where every color threatened to dissolve his sense of self. He sat rigid, menu unfurled, a decoy, a shield, while Vasha, unwavering in her optimism, leaned across the table, her voice low and urgent. "You're broadcasting again, aren't you, Vikas? Even now, even here?" she murmured, glancing at the empty tables as if expecting them to fill at any moment with silent jurors. Out on the street, the rumble of scooters became the clatter of keys, chat messages ricocheting through the air, each one a whispered accusation or cryptic directive. "Just walk straight, the white door, you passed it." Hoffman Masters appeared beside them without warning, sliding into the seat with the practiced calm of a man used to defusing bombs. "The quieter it gets, the closer they are," Hoffman whispered, eyes never leaving the shifting patterns of sunlight on the tabletop. "They want you to choose, Vikas. Menu or confession. One will keep you safe. The other will open every door you've tried to keep locked." A faint notification chimed from Vikas's phone, the words from Peter Parlow pulsing like a heartbeat. "You are being watched. Order carefully." Vikas's hand trembled as he reached for his glass, every movement reflected in the mirrored surfaces around him. Window, spoon, the blank faces of the passers-by. He told himself the hunger in his belly was for food, not absolution, but as the wind caught the edge of the menu, flinging it open to a page marked "Today's Specials," Vasha's eyes locked on his, bright with worry and something like hope. "Sometimes the only way out is to let them see you eat," she said quietly, as if the act itself might break the spell. And outside, across the empty tables and the white-hot street, shadows gathered, patient and hungry, waiting for him to make his choice. The sunset bled across Pattaya beach like an accusation, its orange and yellow streaks painting the sand in layers of gold too vivid to trust. Hoffman Masters materialized beside Vikas, voice carefully neutral. "You see the footprints?" He pointed to the faint trail that led from the undisturbed sand to the water's edge, a line no one seemed to claim. "Someone's already chosen your path." The silhouettes scattered along the shore were not revelers, Vikas realized, but sentinels, each motionless figure a potential witness, or worse, a judge. From behind him, Dr. Quinn Mark's words floated on the humid air, gentle but insistent. "It's not going to be like that every time, Habibi. Keep that in mind." The phrase looped through Vikas's mind like a broken incantation. With each repetition, his grip on the moment weakened. The chat's chorus flickered on his screen, fragmented encouragements and veiled threats merging into a single, serpentine voice. "Majority of us want the best for you, bro." Yet above this digital affirmation lurked doubt. Always that keening edge, always a subtle test. The line of boats on the horizon rocked in rhythm to some invisible tide, while the overlay of travel funds pulsed faintly at the top of the frame, a metronome measuring the cost of every choice. "They're waiting for you to decide," Hoffman murmured, eyes locked on the shadowed faces by the surf. Dr. Mark smiled, that same optimistic glint now tinged with warning. "The sand remembers more than footsteps, Vikas." As the golden glow deepened and the silhouettes grew sharper, Vikas realized he could not tell where the evening ended and the interrogation began. The sunset a spotlight, the beach a silent amphitheater, and every watcher a mirror reflecting the secrets he could not outrun. Under the glare of the string lights, too bright, as if they'd been hung not for celebration but for interrogation, Vikas found himself surrounded. Dr. Quinn Mark in the blue shirt, gaze darting between the glinting bottle and the subtle tremor in Vikas's hand. Elias Nugent, all cheerful bravado with his straw hat perched at a mocking angle, smile stretched wide, but eyes scanning every twitch of muscle, every hesitation in speech. And on the far right, Jonathan Goner, black-shirted, his drink untouched, stare unwavering and coldly appraising, as if searching Vikas's face for cracks in the mask. The remnants of their meal lay scattered across the table, like the aftermath of some minor skirmish, each empty plate a silent accusation, each water bottle a potential weapon in the hands of the watchers beyond the lens. From the hidden speakers of the streaming rig, Nellie Knoll's voice chirped a too friendly, "Everyone's having such a good time, right, Vikas?" The words sticking to his skin like condensation, impossible to wipe away. "You seem quiet tonight," Jonathan pressed, voice low, the barest trace of threat beneath the casual banter, and Vikas heard the echo of Chat's latest verdict. "Let him cook." Dr. Mark laughed lightly, but his fingers drummed an anxious rhythm on the tabletop, while Elias leaned in, whispering, "They say the truth tastes better after midnight. Will you serve it, or will you let it rot?" Outside their pool of light, conversations blurred and faded, the night market's warmth curdling into something watchful and patient. Vikas felt the lens tighten, the table become a confessional booth, every smile a challenge, every glance an unspoken dare, until the only thing more suffocating than the tropical heat was the knowledge that, in this moment, there was nowhere left to hide. The table, bathed in the honeyed scrutiny of overhead lights, felt less like a sanctuary and more like an interrogation chamber. Each personal relic atop it, crumpled cigarette pack, sticky-fingered lighter, half-drained glass. A piece of evidence in a case that built itself with every nervous laugh. Dr. Quinmark, ever the cerebral supporter, twirled his glass, tracing condensation rings as if mapping Vikas's guilt along the marble surface. "You're quieter than usual tonight, Slum," he said gently, voice dipped in reassurance, but sharpened with suspicion. Across from him, Nellie Knoll, necklace cord knotted in restless fingers, leaned forward until her shadow spilled over the phone's red blinking lens. "It's only content if you let them see you bleed, right?" she whispered, a question camouflaged as camaraderie. Elias Nugent, one hand fisted around his beer, forced a lopsided grin, but kept his gaze sweeping the crowd. Every green-jacketed food runner transformed into a lurking agent of the watchers, every background laugh a coded message. "We're all friends here, unless we're not," he said, and the words hung between them, heavy as the humid air. The chat on Vikas's screen scrolled like a jury's mutter. Accusations pulsed. "Press them for drinks." "Call him Turkish scammer." "He's a snitch." Every message a push deeper into the labyrinth of suspicion. Jonathan Goner, blazer immaculate, cradled the camera rig like a weapon, lens trained not on the market's chaos but on the micro-expressions flitting across Vikas's face. "Careful, Slum," he murmured. "You're leaking tells." Above, the string lights hummed with insectile persistence, illuminating nothing but the growing certainty that whatever confession the watchers craved would not be drawn in words, but in the subtle betrayals played out across this sticky white table, while just beyond the circle of warmth, the market's carnival faded into a shadowed amphitheater, and every bite of laughter from the darkness sounded more and more like the beginning of a verdict. The beach market's glow was a trap disguised as sanctuary. String lights strung overhead like interrogation lamps, white benches gleaming under their scrutiny, every shadow on the table morphing into a charcoal fingerprint. Vasha Keatom leaned in, her eyes locking onto the unblinking lens with the precision of a surgeon preparing an incision. "Smile, Slum," she murmured, voice too soft for the crowd, but calibrated for the watchers in chat. "If you show fear, they'll smell it on you." The laughter of her companion, Elias Nugent, his straw hat at a rakish angle, rippled across the table, but carried a subtext Vikas could not decipher. Encouragement or warning, it was both. Hoffman Masters lingered just beyond the table's circle of warmth, gaze fixed on the pink food truck as if its cheerful neon could conceal a coded message. The stage in the distance pulsed with the threat of revelation, a platform built for public confessions. The chat's digital chorus crawled across Vikas's screen, their fragmented declarations. "He is using chat as excuse for his crimes. Gagan is our bro. He doesn't scam like you." Etching themselves into his psyche, each message a new line in his mental indictment. A subtle vibration ran through the table as a market-goer drifted past, their straw hat a silent echo of Elias's, a doppelganger cast by Paranoia's hand. "Content is confession," Elias said too loudly, and Hoffman's tone cut in like a scalpel. "The only difference between the audience and the jury is how long they let you talk before asking for blood." Vasha's fingers tapped a code on the table. 2, 1, 3, pause. Her optimism now a shield barely holding back a rising tide of suspicion. For an instant the market's laughter faltered, and in that hush Vikas saw all the faces. On camera, off, behind the floodlit tents and the flickering avatars. Waiting, patient, expectant. For a smile, for a tell, for the confession hidden in every shadow, and the proof that the person on their screen was nothing more than a mask built to survive the night.